What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Late morning now, but we're going to go ahead and open up on another position in free agency this offseason. Going to go ahead and take a look at another grouping of soon to be, well, probably soon to be available players. There's still time for any of these players to still make a deal, but why would you get this far and then lock yourself into one team? So, this is another position where honestly there probably won't be and there shouldn't be any real interest from the Seahawks. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right now. We're talking about left tackle. So, left tackle is a position that for the Seahawks should be pretty immutable. I don't think there's a lot that can happen here. You got Charles Cross entering his fourth year in the NFL. He played well last year. He has a very good chance of getting extended to a big contract this offseason. And if he doesn't, then it's not like he's going to go anywhere. What's probably going to happen then is that he has a good year in 2025, and then we pay him even more money next year. Or I guess we could activate the fifth-year option on him and then really let it ride. I don't think that's a smart move, but those are the things that are on the table. Moving on from Charles Cross this offseason is not on the table, or at least it really better not be, because there's not a lot of competency on this offensive line right now, and he is one of those pieces that is, well, more than competent, but the point I'm trying to make here is that that's a guy you want to keep. So, this first video is going to take a look at the top guys in free agency at left tackle this season, but there's obviously, I would say obviously, going to be no interest on the part of the Seahawks in these guys. We're just doing it because we want to be exhaustive. And there are a few high-end starters available in free agency this offseason, which that doesn't always happen. So we're going to take a look at them. Now, later on today, we're going to take a look at some backup caliber left tackles. That's more interesting. Right now, we arguably don't have a backup left tackle, unless you think that Mike Jarrell is a left tackle in the NFL. That's kind of what we don't know right now. Is Jarrell a left tackle or a right tackle? He's so raw and comes from such a small school, it's really hard to judge. So if you think that Jarrell is a left tackle, you don't really need a backup. But if you think that either he's a right tackle or that he's not really ready to do anything in 2025, then maybe you need a backup. And we'll talk about that when the time comes. But let's go through the high-end starters that are available. First guy, this is the cream of the crop this year, Ronnie Staley. Ronnie Staley, been on the Ravens for a while now, was a top 10 pick back in 2016, about to turn 31, right about the time free agency starts. So the other side of the cliff is here, but he did just have one of his best years. Now, it was one of his best years by virtue of the fact that he played every game, which he had never done before. He had always been a guy that would give you, 15, 14, 13, 11. There were some years where he only gave you 6. There was one year where he only played one game. So staying on the field has been a big struggle for Ronnie Staley, but he gutted it out in a year where it was very important for him to gut it out. He managed to get through 17 games. He made the Pro Bowl. He was considered to be one of the best players at his position. So he did what he needed to do to get some credibility in free agency negotiations this offseason. So I think he is going to get paid. Go to PFF. The grade last year was quite good. Not stellar, but 71 on over 1,000 snaps. So a good sample size of snaps at left tackle, doing his job. And remember, in some ways, Lamar Jackson is an easy quarterback to block for. In some ways, he's not. He's easy in that he's very elusive. He's hard in that you don't know where he's going to be on every play the way you would a pocket quarterback. So there is a give and take there. Now, I will say this. If Ronnie Staley was a hockey player, he would live in the penalty box. 13 penalties last year, near the league lead for tackles. And the year before that, he had 10. So that is he probably leads the league in penalties among left tackles in the NFL over the last 2 seasons. And in 2023, when he only played 13 games, he was graded good, but not radically so. It was fine, you know? So you're not going to get some ultra mega high level performer like Trent Williams a few years ago, or maybe you would say a Tristan Wirfs right now. You're not going to get that kind of a tackle, but you're going to get somebody who is very, very good. You're going to get somebody who just came off one of the best seasons of his career, and someone with a very high pedigree who is going to be 31, but that shouldn't be the end of the world yet. And it's, according to Spotrac, going to be a 2-year, $41.3 million deal, which seems high for a guy that has some issues in his game, but look at what the elite left tackles are getting paid. It's really not that bad. So $20.7 million a year, that would put him pretty close to like the star tier. That would be somebody that is getting paid like he's one of the best players at his position. So there is a little bit of a tax you're paying for him, but that's what it takes to get one of these upper level players sometimes. So $20.7 million a year, 2-year deal. The 2 years would be appropriate because it means you don't really have to worry about his age that much. It is a lot of money, but some team is going to do it because left tackles are valuable. And if you have a good left tackle, it makes your offense so much easier to manage. All right, next guy who's going to get a significant amount of money this offseason at left tackle, Alaric Jackson. Alaric Jackson, I remember scouting this guy in the draft. He went to the Rams. I don't even think, he didn't get drafted even. He was a UDFA. And I remember noting that, like, hey, there's not a super high ceiling here, but I think he'll be a viable NFL player. He's been more than just a low ceiling guy. He's actually been pretty darn good for this team, and over the last 2 years has become a full-time starter at left tackle. So, doesn't look like the Rams are jumping out of their seat to extend him, and I can understand that because I don't think he's got much of a ceiling beyond what we've seen. He is about to turn 27, so maybe there's a little bit more, but he was a guy who I remember thinking is pretty capped out coming out of Iowa. So I can see why the Rams aren't jumping out of their seat to pay him, but somebody probably will because left tackles are so valuable, and he has been good these last couple of years. He was very well graded in 2024, 78.3, played almost 900 snaps at left tackle, and it was all at left tackle, to be clear. He allowed 3 sacks on the season, protecting a pocket quarterback like Stafford for most of the year. And, I mean, this is better than what we saw from Staley, right? If you want to just go by PFF grade. I don't know if he is better than Staley, but he could easily be better when you consider the fact that Staley's about to hit 31 and Jackson's about to hit 27. So, really good year. Now, the year before that, he was good. He was all right. Again, a little above average, 66.2 on almost 1,000 snaps. So he's proving himself at left tackle. He's proven himself as a consistent starter. He stays on the field at a high rate. So the only thing really holding Jackson back seems to me, anyway, to be the simple fact that I think he's pretty capped out. And I think he's capped out at a level below one of the best players at his position. I do. I know PFF says he was one of the best last year. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that he is a good player. I don't know if I think he's on this level. And you're going to have to pay him quite a bit of money. Spotrac says 3 years, $47.9 million. That's $16 million a year. That's probably a good amount more palatable than Staley, honestly. The only difference being, of course, that Staley does have superstar upside because of his draft pedigree, because of how good he's been at certain points in his past. And I don't think Jackson does. Jackson has also been more dependable and more durable, and arguably because of the penalties, an equivalent player. It just depends on how much you value things like that. So 3 years, 47.9 million, 16 million per season for Alaric Jackson. It seems steep for a player that I think is capped out, but really, when you look at what other left tackles are getting right now, it's about right. and somebody's probably going to do something like this, and I get it, even though I'm glad my team doesn't have to do it, because it's just a lot for a player that I think has kind of already realized his peak potential as a very good starter, but not quite great. One more guy for this section, Cam Robinson. Cam Robinson, second round pick in 2017, got traded to the Vikings last year after they lost Darisaw. Gonna turn 30 in October, so he's starting to get to the other side. He's had a pretty good career in Jacksonville. I do kind of feel like there's a little bit of disappointment here. He was never a Pro Bowler. He was never considered to be one of the best at his position. He was considered to be a solid, effective starter. And in this league right now, that is valuable because we're not seeing a lot of excess talent at left tackle right now. And he's mostly been durable. He played 2 games in 2018, 9 games in 2023. Other than that, he mostly plays every game. This last year, Jacksonville, in the middle of a very bad season, sent him to Minnesota, and he did a pretty adequate job replacing Darisaw. He wasn't going to be as good as Darisaw, but I don't think anybody expected that. He was fine, and now he's hitting free agency. Minnesota hasn't extended him yet. Now, I don't think they gave up a ton to get him, so I don't think they're motivated to have to keep him. So he could be on the move this offseason. PFF thought he was slightly above average last year, 64.7. Another guy with a lot of penalties committed, but he played about 1,000 snaps, and he did have to adjust to a new team in the middle of the season. So even like this sack total, which is high, he allowed 7 sacks in 2024. That's more than you would like. I'm not going to freak out about that when I understand he had to switch teams mid-season. And the year before that, he was again slightly above average. Really good pass protector or run blocker, but it was only 535 snaps. He played 10 at tight end, but he played about half the season. So he's good, he's capable, but there is definitely a kind of underwhelming aura he gives off. You look at Cam Robinson and you just kind of feel like, it's all right. It's fine. It's adequate, but you're not jumping up and down to go get him for sure. And it kind of just feels like something you do when you can't find anything better to do and you want something that you know is going to be passable. And Spotrac does think it's going to cost you some money. 3 years, $42 million. That's $14 million a year. And I know that for a guy who has really no star upside, it seems like a lot. It's really not. Tunsil. Laramie Tunsil got $25 million. Tristan Wirfs got $28 million in recent memory. So Cam Robinson getting half of Tristan Wirfs is probably about right. So I see somebody doing this. It will not be the Seahawks, I'm sure. I would certainly hope not anyway, unless we're planning on moving him inside, which we have no idea if he can do or not. But that is the rundown on Cam Robinson, and that's the rundown on the high-level starting left tackles available in free agency this year. So I know there isn't a lot to think here, but let me know what you think regardless. I understand that the Seahawks really shouldn't be turning over these rocks, but somebody is going to turn over these rocks. So see you guys soon. Go Hawks. More left tackles coming up soon. We will pretty quickly get to stuff the Seahawks should at least be thinking about in 2025. All right. Go Hawks.